Hello. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the first lecture of this very important series of your GS paper 4 Ethics and Integrity, right? For a lot of you, of it is a source of your stress, of your worry. This is a paper that keeps most of you tensed and worried and sleepless at night. So in this class, in this series, we are going to change that. We are going to transform that feeling. Please let me know, comment down below those who are watching live. I would like to know um, your thoughts and just want to see your names. Yeah? Okay. So this is going to be a very important series. I want you to pay your full attention. Don't just lie down on your beds and watch this like a Netflix series. I want you to be awake and alert and be up, sitting down on your writing desks with your notebooks, with your pens, and noting down all the important things that we are going to discuss, all the things that you can see uh, on my slides. Yeah, all right. So, first of all, an overview, right? Ethics is a paper which most of the aspirants treat as an afterthought. This is something that you keep postponing and you procrastinate on this preparation. You wait until your prelims results are declared and you want to get this done in the period in between your prelims results and your mains, which is the single most expensive mistake that you may be doing. You rely on some PDFs that are shared over Telegram, some borrowed notes, etc. And you want to cram everything up and you expect to score well in your examination. And that is the single most expensive mistake that you might be doing as an aspirant. This paper is so crucial for your rank, not just your selection, but for your rank, whether you're selected into IAS or IFS or ACS or any other service that you may not prefer that much. This paper holds the key to your selection, might I even say, right? If you agree, let me know. In this series, we are going to transform this subject from a source of your continuous anxiety and worry to something that is your strong point, right? It's going to be your absolute biggest strength that you can bank on in your mains. That's what we are going to do in this series. I'd love to hear from you. So comment down below, right? First of all, First of all, let me tell you that UPSC is not looking for traditional academic philosophers. UPSC is not wanting to check if you can recite all those Aristotle's value ethics and all the theories of ethics. They are wanting to judge your administrative personality. UPSC and APSC is looking to understand what lies behind your personality, what kind of a person you are, how do you act, how do you think, and how do you behave when it comes to day-to-day administration in matters of ethics, in matters of morality, right? In matters of morality. Unlike all other subjects in your GS paper 1, 2, 3, you can hide behind lots of numbers, data, committee reports, your constitution articles, etc. But in this subject, every line that you write in your paper will expose your emotional intelligence, your maturity, your biases, your prejudices, and your ethical moral compass. Therefore, pay attention so that we can master all these topics in detail, and the goal is not just to rote memorize, the goal is to internalize the values. This is the single most reason that people are so terrified, so scared of this subject, because they memorize the definitions, they cram everything up without understanding it, without internalizing it. And as long as you do not internalize, as long as you keep memorizing everything, your answers in your mains as well as going far into your interview will look very robotic. It will not look authentic. Therefore, internalizing these values, these principles are extremely important, right? And also, I have to say that the cost to benefit ratio, the time, the efforts that you put into versus the marks that you can gain is extraordinarily high compared to other GS subjects. It's extremely high. Therefore, every minute, every hour that you spend into learning, into mastering this paper will be reflected in your marks, will be reflected in your rank ultimately. And also, it has a tremendous correlation and tremendous contribution in your essay paper as well. Those topics, abstract topics, philosophical essays, the way that you will learn how to think, how to process, and how to express your thoughts in this subject will directly impact, directly benefit your essay paper. These are all of the wonderful, wonderful reasons that you need to be paying your full attention in this class, and you need to be enjoying. And I hope I will make you enjoy. I firmly believe I will make you enjoy everything that we are going to discuss in this class. So, without further ado, let's get right into your chapter 1. Your chapter 1, which is ethics and integrity. Chapter 1 is your ethics and human interface. Ethics and human interface. So what are we going to learn in this chapter? We have introduction to ethics. We have introduction to ethics. What is the essence? What are the determinants? And what are the consequences of ethics in human action? What are the consequences? What determines the ethical principles that we have? Dimensions of ethics will explore different ethical frameworks, will explore the perspectives and ethics in private and public relationships, understanding ethical behavior in your personal and your professional contexts. We have direct questions coming from your syllabus, so we'll discuss that as well. But before that, since this is our first class, let's spice this up a little bit. Let's talk about a very interesting, a very intriguing, and a classical ethical dilemma, which is the trolley problem. Let me introduce you. Some of you might already be knowing, some of you may not, but regardless, let's dive into this classical ethical dilemma. This is called the famous trolley problem, right? Okay, so imagine yourself to be this person right here, okay? So as you can see, these are two railway tracks, and this is a trolley rushing, hurtling out of control, okay? So this is the main railway track, and this trolley is heading towards this track, the main railway track. And here we have five railway workers who are concentrating on their work, and they are not aware of this trolley rushing towards them. Now, this is a side track where you can see another worker working here. There's one person working here, there's 5 people working on the main track. Now, you are standing next to the lever. You can see that if you do nothing, this trolley is going to rush and hit these 5 people, and they're going to die on spot. Whereas if you pull this lever, this is in your hands, if you pull this lever, this trolley will divert to the side track and it will ultimately kill 1 people, and those 5 lives will be saved. Right? Will you pull the lever? The question is, will you pull the lever? Yeah? Can anyone answer? Can anyone answer? Are you going to pull the lever? Hello, I want to see your response. Yeah, I want to see your response. Let's make this class absolutely interesting, right? I want to see your response. I believe most of you will say yes, and that might seem like a little bit difficult, yet a very logical decision. Here you are saving 5 lives at the cost of 1. 5:1 is the ratio. You are saving 5 lives by putting 1 to death. Okay? Difficult, but most of you will agree to that. It seems like a simple arithmetic, right? Now, let me change the scenario a little bit. Now, the scenario is a little bit different. Scenario is a little bit different. Here, you are not standing next to the lever, but you are standing on top of a footbridge. Here you can see this is a footbridge. You are standing, this is you, and this is another huge giant of a person standing next to you. Now, you can see that if you push this person, the weight of that person can stop this trolley, This person will die, but this trolley will stop. And these 5 lives again will be saved. Here again, you are letting 1 person die to save 5 lives. But will you do that? Will you push this person to die? Will you push this person to die? Come on. Hello, prelims hat apunar question ahisile? Yes, that was so interesting. That's so wonderful to know. So many students have given feedback on this, that a lot of questions in prelims was asked from my classes, and it's a wonderful experience. It's a blessing. I'm glad. Yeah. So, okay, let's concentrate. Suddenly, it becomes difficult. Even here, the arithmetic is same, the math is same, 1:5. Yet, I bet most of you will not be able to do that, will not be able to push that person. Why? Why? Because earlier, it seemed only like arithmetic. Like you're pulling the lever, you're not pushing 1 person directly, but you're pulling the lever, you're saving 5 lives at the cost of 1. But here, you are actively pushing someone to death. Actively pushing someone to death. Okay? Earlier is a case of utilitarianism. Utilitarianism. Greatest good for greatest number. We are talking about numbers earlier. That is utilitarian theory. But here, deontology comes into play. I'll tell you how. Because the act of pushing someone to death, right, is curtailing someone's right to live. And the act of doing that, of depriving someone of their right to live, feels inherently bad, no matter what the outcome, no matter that you're saving 5 lives. But that act seems to be inherently bad. And this is an example of deontology. Okay? Here, your conscience will scream at you. You won't be able to push one person directly into their death, right? So that is deontology, my friend. Okay. Now, isn't it interesting? This is one of the classical ethical dilemmas. I believe you all are finding it interesting. But why are we discussing all these in our ethics paper? And you all are going to be future administrators. I'll tell you how. What implications does it have? This classical trolley problem, this problem is the ultimate metaphor for public policy. How? This is similar. This is same. You know, when a government decides to build a massive highway, they are pulling the lever. Government is acting as the person who is pulling the lever. How? They might displace one village, which is the sidetrack. They might displace or sacrifice or let go of one village, which is the sidetrack, to boost the economy of the entire state. Again, utilitarianism. Okay, main track. As a bureaucrat, you are the one holding the lever, and you cannot afford to make decisions solely based on pure emotions. Pure emotions. You cannot afford to make decisions purely based on emotions, nor can you make them with cold, unfeeling mathematics. You cannot get as cold and as practical. You know, you must find a balance, and you have to learn the frameworks to justify your choices, and your choices have to be logical, legal, and ethical. The choices you make have to be logical, legal, and ethical, right? Ethical. That's how, these are the principles. That's how you're going to think when you come across a case study. You need to solve a case study. That's how you need to think when you have to find the right options that you're going to choose for your case studies. Okay. Now, you have to see, is it the outcome that matters or the purity of deed? Okay, that is the dilemma. Are we only looking for the outcome? Does means justify the end? We have to think in that line. Okay. So now let's go through some of the questions. These are not all of the questions. I believe I've taken 6 of them. There are more questions, but just this is how you study. Before you dive into a subject, before you study something, you need to check what kind of questions were asked from that syllabus, from that portion of the syllabus in the past. Okay. So in 2024, it was asked, explain the key dimensions of ethics. Pay attention here. Dimensions of ethics that influence human actions. Again, human actions is a keyword, dimension is a keyword. Discuss how these dimensions shape the ethical decision making in professional context for 10 marks. Okay, here we are not going to solve now. We are just running through the questions. We are going to solve it later on. Ethics is knowing the difference between what you have the right to do and what is right to do. What you have the right to do and what is right thing to do. This is a quote by Potter Stewart. In the context of this statement, what does ethics seek to promote in human life? How do ethical values assist in resolution of conflicts faced by an individual in day-to-day functioning? Explain with the help of 2 examples. See, you have to be ready with examples. Where number 1, an act is ethically right but not legally. Number 2 is when an act is legally right but not ethically, for 10 marks. Okay. The next question is, do private ethics have a bearing on public life? Private ethics and public life. Okay. Can private ethical behavior be separated from public ethics without consequences? The good of an individual is contained in the good of all. What do you understand by this statement? How can this principle be implemented in public life? So we are just priming our brains to think and to look for what matters most. And those important topics we find in your PYQs. So you've gone through it now. Let it be. No need to solve it. We'll study first, okay? All right. Now, ethics is a system of let's see what ethics is. It is a system of moral principles. This is the key word. It is a system of moral principles that is concerned with human conduct. It is a system of moral principles that is concerned with human conduct, what is good, what is bad. It studies the norms and standards. What should be the norm? What should be the norm and what is not normal, right? Of right and wrong used to judge actions. It studies what is morally right or wrong, okay? Morally right or wrong, just or unjust. In simple words, ethics refers to what is good and the way to get it, and what is bad and how to avoid it. This is the way you put it, right? You know what ethics is. You know what ethics is. Studies the norms and standards of what is right and wrong. And it is used to judge our actions. And it shows us what is good and how to get it. How and what is bad and how do we avoid it. Simple. In philosophy, ethics outlines the nature of the obligations that people have towards themselves and one another, as well as what is good for the individual and society. This is more of a philosophical definition. The obligations that we have towards other people in our society, the nature of obligations, that is called ethics in philosophy. Now, is there any difference between, wait, let me adjust the AC temperature. Is there any difference of ethics and morality, or is it the same? Okay. Is ethics and morality the same, one and the same thing, or is it different? I'll tell you there's a difference. And even this question was asked in one of the previous years. Okay. So morality, it can be solitary. It can be something individual, something that you can practice individually. For example, you think that eating meat is not good. It is immoral to kill animals, and you can practice that on your own, even though no one else in your home, in your city or country follows that. You can still follow it on your own individually. So that is morality. But ethics is more like a collective agreement of a society to follow certain rules, certain norms, certain codes of conduct in an organization even. So ethics needs other people to agree on certain standardized norms or rules. But in case of morality, it is more of an individual thing. You can practice that on your own, even if no one agrees to that. Okay, that is a single most differentiating factor between ethics and morality. Now that I have explained it to you in simpler terms, let's check what's there in the slide. Morality is an internal solitary anchor. It is internal, first of all. Second, it's solitary. So these are the keywords that you need to remember. It is your personal compass. See, it is your personal compass of right and wrong. It can exist on a deserted island because it requires no one else's agreement. It requires no one else's agreement. A moralist can confidently stand completely alone against the world and say, I do not believe in war. Okay? Do interact, okay? Now, on the other hand, ethics is a shared, this is something shared, social contract. Contract means what? People are agreeing. Contract means an agreement. You need other people to agree. Ethics is a shared social contract. You cannot be ethical alone. Ethics is born the moment other people enter the picture. Can you see that? It is the collective agreement. Collective agreement, or a better term for this is acquiescence, on how a group must behave to live together. It forces you to realize yourself through your relationship with others. Morality is a silent promise you make to your own conscience. It's a silent promise you need not declare. Ethics is the shared code of conduct. See, shared code of conduct. We all agree to follow so the society does not collapse into chaos. Okay? So these are your keywords: internal solitary anchor, it's a personal compass, it requires no one else's agreement, and the example. Now, ethics is a shared social contract. You cannot be ethical alone. The moment other people enters the picture, collective agreement and shared code of conduct. Now you will be able to answer if you are given this question: what is the difference between ethics and morality? And example, right? Hello, good afternoon. Now, sources of ethics. Till now, we have understood that yes, we have certain codes of conduct, shared code of conduct that we have mutually agreed to follow. We have agreed to think or assume or accept that certain things are wrong, certain things are right. But where did it actually come from? What is the source of ethics? Or, you know, how did we arrive at the conclusion that certain things are good, certain things are bad? How did we distinguish? First and the oldest and one of the single most important source is religion. No matter what religion we follow, all of the religious scriptures come with certain, rules or norms saying these things are good, these things are evil, right? So religion is one of the most important things. My dear lovely people who all are in the class, are you paying attention or not? Are you writing down? Pay attention and do not waste your time, okay? Pay attention and you'll definitely increase your marks by great margin, I should say. Now, it is one of the oldest foundations of ethical standards, It is the most important source. Most important, we all know. Why is it most important? Because most people, whether they follow some law or not, whether they read and follow and abide by the Constitution or not, but majority of the people you'll see, they follow religion. When something is written in religious texts, they are more likely to obey that, to abide by that, right? When a religious leader says something, they're more, the probability of accepting is quite way higher. Okay? Important source of ethics, as religious teachings often prescribe what is right and wrong, and society subscribes to such norms. Our society subscribes to religious norms. Then we have legal systems, laws and acts. Legal system of any country acts as a guiding source. If you're confused in any situation, you can go back to the laws, you can refer to the laws, you can refer to the acts, you can refer to the Constitution, right? Acts as a guiding source for human behavior in the society. Now, culture. It is a pattern of those behaviors and values that are considered as ideal within the acceptable limits, which are transferred from one generation to the other. Culture, we all know what culture is, and it's a pattern of behaviors that a group follows certain traditions that we follow, that we believe to be good, and it is then transferred to from one generation to another. It is a culture that defines certain behavior as acceptable and others as unacceptable, right? The culture of respecting the elderly, the culture of um, not bringing in footwears into our homes, right? Different kinds of cultures that we have that are transferred from one generation to another. Human conscience. Conscience is what? Every person carries within them an internal moral compass that says that whether something that you're about to do is right or wrong. Okay? Conscience helps a man to differentiate between good and bad, and certain standards for society are acceptable for all conscientious men. Certain standards, like no, no conscientious man will ever say that murder is good, that rape is good, right? That is collectively decided, collectively agreed upon as evil by human beings with conscience. Okay, so human conscience is another source. Then the next source is family systems. Family systems are traditional or cultural values that pertain to the family structure, function, roles, family structure, as in the hierarchy. If you are living in a traditional Indian joint family, there's a strict hierarchy from your grandparents. Then you have the next generation. Then we have grandchildren, right? Function, how the family functions, who earns, who has the right to say, right on financial decisions. Then roles and beliefs and attitudes and ideals. Hence, the family system becomes a source of ethics. It is the very first source of ethics, because before a child ever goes to school, before a child ever makes friends, before a child ever goes to any religious place or listens to any religious teachings, the first classroom, the first ethical laboratory, you might even say, is a family system. If elders are respected in the family, they turn to be adults who think a lot about elderly care. If such a person enters the administration, they will have schemes, they will contribute towards formulating schemes for elderly care or for little children. In a joint family setup, they learn how to share things, they share resources, sometimes food, sometimes shared space. Privacy is not that much of uh, a requirement or a privilege. They might share cars even, right? They share resources, they learn. And if in a household the domestic help is treated right, the children learn early on. They learn the values of equality, they learn the values of compassion. But you all, being future civil servants, you cannot be looking at only the positive things about a family system or a family culture, because yes, we learn how to respect elders or to take care of our siblings. Those are some of the good things, but sometimes children learn patriarchy or gender discrimination right at their homes. When the women in the household are not treated right, are not treated equally, when the women in the household eat last or has no say on any financial decision, then you learn gender discrimination. When they see that the household helps, or the workers, the sanitation workers, somebody from a different caste, lower caste, or different class or a different religion, if they are made to sit separately, if they are provided separate utensils to eat and drink from, they learn discrimination, they learn biases, they learn prejudice, right? So family, just because it's a family system, not everything about it is good. And you being future administrators, you are expected to look at everything with a critical analysis. Not everything is good, not everything is bad. You have to see the positives as well as the negatives, right? That's how you develop an administrative lens and eye. Okay. Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to the class. Now, thinkers and philosophers. Thinkers and philosophers, they serve as role models for people and aid in society's quest for new virtues. We all, as a society, we all look up to thinkers and philosophers. We look up to them sometimes when we are not decisive enough. We look up to them to serve as our role model, to help shape our thoughts, and also to in quest for new virtues. What are the virtues and what are the vices, right? We look up to them. Okay. Next is, what is now, here we have finished the sources of ethics. Okay. Next we have importance of ethics. Why is ethics important? Why is it even important? Why should we even care about studying ethics? Why is it even included in our syllabus? It provides a moral map. Or else, how are you going to make decisions if you do not have a map? How are you going to navigate your journey in the bureaucracy if you do not have a map? Ethics provides us with a moral map, a framework that we can use to find our way through difficult issues, which you're going to have continuously throughout your entire service life. Okay. It helps to resolve moral issues. Helps to resolve moral issues. Ethics does provide good tools for thinking. It provides you tools for thinking. It's each and everything cannot be written that in this circumstance you have to do this, but it does provide you tools for your thinking. It gives you direction to your thinking about moral issues. It does not always show the right answer. You cannot open a book of ethics and you can find the right answer to the exact circumstance you are facing right now. No, but it gives you a direction, it gives you a roadmap, it gives you a tool. But it can eliminate confusion and give you clarify the issues, or give you a lot of clarity in making your decisions. All right. Now, again, attainment of highest good, which is also called summum bonum. What is summum bonum? Highest good. Highest good. The definitive happiness is the goal of an ethical system. Of course, it is a goal. It will always remain a goal. But we are striving towards that goal, right? This is summum bonum. Resolves ethical dilemmas. Ethical values such as honesty, trustworthiness, responsibility help guide us along a pathway to deal more effectively with ethical dilemmas, right? Next is, it frees us from bias and prejudices. The unconscious mental shortcuts that we have, the way we assume that people from this community are not hygienic. That is a mental shortcut. That is not based on any objective truth, no objective data. The way we like people who are just as us, who speaks the same language as us, who wears the same attire as us, who eats the same food as us, who speaks, who has similar facial features with us. That is called in-group bias. But here, after studying ethics, we learn to check on that. What is it based on? Is it an objective truth? We learn to question ourselves so that when we end up in being an administrator, being an officer, we have we can check on ourselves and we can let go of those biases. We have to actively destroy and dismantle those biases that we have been unconsciously carrying. Okay. Now, application of moral principles and ethical values in our life helps to deconstruct the wrong conceptions, attitudes, and helps to avoid bias and prejudices, which will be extremely important. Hello, good afternoon, welcome. How is it going so far? Are you able to understand? Now, effective decision making. Ethics guides us to make the right, just, and inclusive decisions. Inclusive means we are not leaving behind the marginalized, we are not leaving behind people with disabilities, right? We have to be as inclusive as possible, aimed at personal as well as societal. At individual level, absence. Now, we have learned about the importance of ethics. Now, the exact opposite will be the absence, will be the results of the absence of ethics, right? So, if there's no ethics in your life, what will it lead to? In an individual level, people are seen to be having abusive behavior, domestic violence, casteism, selfishness, cheating behavior, and unempathetic, bystander apathy, etc., are going to be displayed by a person who has no idea of what it is or who does not implement any of it. You might be knowing all of these, but this bystander apathy might be a new term for you all. So let me explain. Bystander apathy is when you look at a problem. Apathy is you do not react. You're cold towards it, right? Apathy, right? You have no reaction to something, usually a problem that needs your attention. You don't give a damn, to speak in a very common modern language. So bystander apathy is usually, let's say, a person collapses because of something, some health issue. A person collapses in a very busy road, in a very busy metro station. You'll normally see a lot of crowd will gather around him or her, but no one will do anything. That is called bystander apathy. Why does it happen? Number one, diffusion of responsibility. Diffusion of responsibility. One will think someone else will do, the other will think someone else will do. Everyone keeps thinking that it is somebody else's responsibility, somebody else is more qualified to do. Maybe a doctor should come ahead and do something, maybe a nurse, a medical personnel should come ahead and do something. They diffuse the responsibility. Whereas if there's a lonely road and there's only one person walking by and there's another person who meets with an accident, who falls from their bike or who collapses, that single other person feels 100% of the responsibility to do something because there's no one else. There's no one else to diffuse the responsibility upon. So that is bystander apathy, when you choose to just watch passively and not do anything about it. Okay? That is bystander apathy. That happens in government. Government officials, they see a lot of wrong things going on, they see a lot of corruption going on, but they think, okay, doesn't matter, it's not my department, right? That is an example of bystander apathy. Or they think, why should I take initiative? Let somebody else do it. That is bystander apathy in administration. Okay? At a social level, acceptance of corruption, commodification of women, increased materialism, ends surpasses means, ends. People only seem to care about the ends, no matter what the means are, right? Then drug addiction, violence, communalism, gender crimes, disrespect towards women, elders, disabled, etc. At political level, what do we see? We see criminalization of politics and politicization of criminals. I believe you all know what these two terms mean. Criminalization of politics is when criminals who are charged of rape, of murder, who have a criminal background, they enter into politics. And politicization of criminals is when major political parties depend on criminals to win the election instead of depending on work, on good policies. They depend on the gundas, the mafias, criminals for their vote bank, for money, right, for the elections. That is politicization of criminals. Then we have power abuse, power concentration. We see defections, we see instability in government, we see violence, communalism, use of money and muscle power to gain votes, abuse of constitution, etc. Okay. Hello, good afternoon. Good afternoon, Bitupon and Chase Adventure India. How is it going for you guys? Able to understand? Are you able to follow or not? Then we have adherence to human rights. Lack of ethics has been the cause of wars, of course, genocide, and many times in history. Next, bureaucratic level. In bureaucratic level, the absence of ethics leads to corruption, it leads to nepotism, it leads to trust deficit, punishment postings, red tapeism, poor decisions, personal gains, favoritism, conflict of interest, abuse of power, neglect of public welfare, poor implementation of schemes and welfare programs, etc. This is pretty easy, pretty obvious. I believe you all know it and all the terms are easy. I don't believe it needs any further explanation, right? Then in international level, we have ceasefire violation. Two countries at war, they decide to cease fire and then they violate. Why? Because of lack of ethics. They do not feel the need to adhere to the commitments. Okay? Encroachment at border areas, very common. Cross-border terrorism, drug trafficking, human trafficking, all these issues you have been studying already in other papers, in current affairs, organized crime, safe tax havens for protectionism, protecting domestic businesses, right? Banning imports, vaccine nationalism, nuclearization, conflict and war erodes legitimacy of international institutions, as well as legitimacy of a country in the international arena. Okay. So, understood? Let me not go into the details because you all are preparing for civil services. You all know that, okay? Now, accountability. Without ethics, there is an erosion of accountability as shown by various countries. There's no accountability. In the absence of ethics, nobody acts accountably, okay? No accountability seen. Environmental level, illegal deforestation. When there's no ethics, you do not think about sustainability. You do not think about future generations. You see nature as something to be exploited as much as you can for your own personal benefit. And other than that, you have nothing to do with nature. That is the attitude of a person who lacks ethics. Illegal deforestation, encroachment of natural water bodies, animal torture, illegal mining, depletion of natural resources, wildlife crime, etc. Now, evaluation of ethical conduct means to respect the rights of participants and ensure minimization of the potential harm. Evaluation of ethics. How can we say that that an action done by someone is ethical or not? How do we evaluate? First of all, there has to be a free will, meaning a choice is evaluated for ethical or unethical when it is chosen from available options freely. If a person has only one choice, we cannot term it as ethical or unethical. An officer who is forced, an officer working in an area where there are mafias, for example, they do illegal sand mining, and an officer is forced to sign some paper, sign the permission by held at a gunpoint. That officer has no choice. They cannot die, right? They have to sign the permission papers or the agreements. And that term cannot be directly termed as that thing, that action cannot be directly termed as unethical. Why? Because it was not, that action was not born out of free will. That person had no other option to do so, to do something else or to choose differently. So free will comes into play. Free will comes into play. Then knowledge, a person has to have full knowledge. Suppose in another administrative scenario, you are making a decision, whereas your subordinates have hidden a lot of facts and data from you. You did not have the full knowledge of the situation before you made a decision. In that case, even your decision cannot be completely termed as unethical because you did not know any better. You did not have the full knowledge. We cannot exercise free will in an ethical manner unless and until we have knowledge of its consequences or the knowledge of consequences, okay, or knowledge behind certain scenario or the knowledge of its consequences. Example, for example, a baby's action of destroying something, babies keep throwing things, right? Destroying something is not unethical because the baby does not have knowledge of it. The baby has not gained that maturity intellectually and has no knowledge of it. So a baby's actions cannot be considered unethical. So free will and knowledge. Then we have habit, evaluation of ethics, habit. Certain things, certain cultures follow certain rules, whereas other cultures do not. So that cannot be called unethical. Okay. A person of some Western country, let's say they come to India and they are not aware that we do not bring footwears inside. That is not our habit. Whereas for them, it is okay. Their habit is to bring footwears inside, right? So if a person does not know it and does it out of habit, we cannot call it unethical. Since childhood, Japanese are trained to apologize profusely, even for the slightest mistake. They will say sorry, sorry. They'll bow down 100 times. They'll say they'll keep apologizing profusely for the slightest mistake, even if there's a crowded area and you accidentally bang onto someone, you hit someone accidentally. Even then, they will apologize profusely, or discomfort caused to another human being. So that is their habit. Whereas a person, an Indian person, will not do that, but that does not mean they are unethical. Similarly, value system is another thing. A fallen samurai would prefer to commit ritual suicide rather than suffering torture by enemies because it is a part of his Bushido honor code. They're simply following a value system. Okay. Next, scope of ethics. Scope of ethics. Scope, what exactly falls under ethics? What is its scope? Scope of ethics indicates its subject matter. What is included? It includes whatever has reference to free human acts, as we have already discussed. Voluntary actions only. We are judging voluntary actions only, not involuntary actions. So, free human acts. Concern for something or someone other than ourselves, as well as our own interest and self-interest, lies at the core of ethics. We can distinguish between human actions and actions of human. This was asked in one of the previous years. What is the difference between human actions and actions of human? Human actions are those actions that are done by humans consciously, voluntarily. Like, for example, I'm standing here, I'm choosing to teach ethics. That is my human action. That is a conscious, voluntary decision done by humans consciously, deliberately, in view of an end. My end is making you experts in GS paper 4. So that is my human action. Whereas actions of human may not be willfully, voluntarily, or consciously or deliberately done, but all the same, they are done by humans. Example, sleeping, walking. I sleep, I walk, okay, done by human. But that is actions of human, and that does not come under the scope of ethics. In ethics, we deal only with human actions and not actions of human. Do remember this distinction. Ethics is concerned with political, sociological, cultural, physical, economic, environmental, religious problems in pursuit of highest good. We are all pursuing the highest good. So these problems have an additional place in the scope of ethics, as in political problems, sociological, cultural, physical, all the problems that you can think of. It comes under the scope of ethics. Now, there's some new things as well. In addition to religious, cultural, social, physical, we have it as the scope of ethics has been constantly expanding with the emergence of new technologies like AI, like social media, OTT platforms, etc. With the emergence of new technology, the scope of ethics is widening to address new emerging issues. With the emergence of new technologies, we have new issues. The AI algorithms, it could be biased, and we have to check that. It could violate human rights. We have to keep that in check. Okay? Social media or OTT content regulation, we have to find a balance between free speech or freedom of expression and right to privacy. We have to find a balance. We cannot justify basic human rights, right? Then we have gene editing, etc. How the gene editing or CRISPR, with the emergence of these technologies, the gene editing has not stayed limited to just correcting certain diseased genes, just to control certain diseases or to treat certain diseases. It has in fact broadened. It has in fact broadened and turned into making designer babies, changing and altering the human gene pool permanently. How ethical is that? What are the dangers of it? You have to dive into all of those. Okay? So, nature of ethics. What is the nature of ethics? Nature. Can you follow? Yeah? We'll go dive into the nature of ethics. Ethics exists in all human societies. In all human societies, no matter where they live, where they reside, where did they originate from, doesn't matter. In all human societies, ethics exist. It arises in course of evolution of social, intelligent, social. Human beings are what? Social, intelligent, long-lived mammals who possess the capacity to recognize each other and to remember the past behavior of others. In case of human beings, we do remember the past behavior of others. Imagine if nothing as such existed, if we did not remember each other's name, if we did not remember what we did to each other yesterday or the day before, then ethics would not have come into play. There would not have been any existence or any need of existence of ethics, right? But since we are intelligent, long-lived mammals and we do remember each other's name, history, past behavior, and relationships, ethics exist. Okay? Then exclusively for human beings is not for animals or insects. Okay? It is exclusively for human beings. Ethical norms do not apply to the behavior of animals, birds, etc. because they are not as intelligent, they're not as intellectually evolved as us, and we do not know whether they remember like us, whether they form relationships like us. Only human beings have the capacity to guide and regulate their behavior, so it exists in human beings only. Then ethics standards differ from society to society. In certain societies, something may be ethical and the same very thing can be unethical in a different society. All right, what is considered to be ethical behavior in one society might be considered unethical in another. For example, abortion is a taboo in most countries. It is a taboo. It is a taboo. Personally, even if you live in a country where it is legal for you to abort, but still, personally, you might not be agreeing. But see, abortion is a taboo in most countries, but it is fully legal in many other countries. Same thing, the same concept of abortion. Some people might be considering it as, protecting or saving the life of someone who has not yet gained the capacity or the power to save or protect themselves from being killed. And yet, other sections or other countries are viewing it as personal right, my body, my right kind of a thing. My body, my right. I have the right to decide whether I'm going to carry forward with this conception, with a pregnancy, or they have the right to end it when they decide. Okay, but the same thing of abortion. The ethical principles are universal in nature. They prescribe obligations and virtues for everybody in a society. Ethics is important not only in business. See, they are universal in nature, but within a society. Again, society to society it will change, but within a society it is universal or societal. You can say these prescribe obligations and virtues for everybody in a society. Ethics is important not only for business, for politics, but in every single human endeavor that you can think of. Ethics is important. Now, nature of ethics also says that ethics is a normative science and it is not a not not a positive science. Ethics is a normative science. What does it mean? Normative science. It says the norms. Unlike positive science, ethics deals with values. Positive science means, for example, physics. Physics is a positive science. It does not say what is good, what is bad. It simply observes. Suppose physics will say that a certain bullet is being fired at the speed of this. Okay, that is physics. But ethics will say that firing a bullet is right or wrong. That is ethics. It is saying whether something is considered as a norm or a standard. Is it right? Is it wrong? Physics will simply state the facts. It will not say either the action is good or bad. Now, okay, so it evaluates standards or norms by which we can judge human action to be right or wrong. Ethics is different from morality. Ethics is different from morality. Ethics does not teach you how to lead a moral life. Ethics merely helps us to justify right and wrong. But the difference between ethics and morality we have already discussed. Ethics is a science of values. It identifies the behaviors or kinds of activity that have the quality of moral responsibility. Ethics is a science of values. It is a science of values. Do we have more time? Huh? Can I continue further? Okay, so now we are going to discuss different branches of ethics. Let's discuss about some of the very interesting branches of ethics. Are you here? Can you follow? How is it going for you all? See, what descriptive ethics? Descriptive ethics, as the name suggests, it simply describes. It simply describes. It is not the judge. It simply observes. It is like a video camera, like a CCTV. It will observe the actions in the room. It will not say that if somebody is doing good or bad. Okay. What do people think is right? Descriptive ethics is the study of people's beliefs. Study of people's beliefs about morality. What do you believe about morality? What do I believe about morality? Whether it is the same or is it different? It tries to explain the moral and ethical practices and beliefs of certain societies and cultures. If a certain society believes something, descriptive ethics tries to explain why that particular society believes in such a thing. Okay? It is the factual study of what is believed to be moral by a specific society. Can you see that? Rather than a philosophical argument, it will not argue what ought to be, what ought to be moral, or what should be considered as immoral. It will not argue. It will simply describe. It is simply a factual study. That is descriptive ethics. It is an empirical investigation of people's moral beliefs. What do you believe and why? That is simply descriptive ethics based on laws and customs of different society. It studies the history and evolution of ethics and gives a record. It will give a record of certain taboos, customs, and conventions. How did it originate and why? Okay. It is a value-free approach. There's no value attached to it. Okay. No polarity, no positive, negative, no right, wrong. It is a value-free approach. No polarity. It does not make judgments about the morality of the practices and beliefs, but simply describes. That's it. Then we have meta-ethics. Meta-ethics is what? Meta-ethics is ethics of ethics. Ethics of ethics. If something is right, why is it right? If something is wrong, what is it wrong? What does right mean? What does wrong mean? What does moral mean? What does immoral mean? That is meta-ethics. What does right even? It will question the very language of ethics. It will question it. Okay. You can say that this is the linguist when it comes to ethics. Okay. Now, metaethics, the sub-discipline of ethics concerned with the nature of ethical theories and moral judgments. It investigates the origin and meaning of ethical concepts. What is the origin? What is the meaning? What does it mean to be immoral? If I am saying that stealing or killing is immoral, metaethics will question me that, do you really think killing is immoral? Or why do you think killing is immoral? Do you really think there is such thing in the universe as morality or as moral or immoral? Or do you simply dislike that somebody is killing someone? Is it my personal belief? Metaethics will pose all those questions on me as soon as I say that I think killing is immoral. Okay? It studies where our ethical principles come from and what do they mean, and tries to analyze the underlying principles of ethical values. Meta means about the thing itself. So metaethics is ethics about ethics or evaluation of ethics itself. Okay? Why is stealing immoral? As I have said, why is charity moral? It will keep questioning. See, for example, somebody finds a lost wallet on the roadside and they decide to keep it. Okay? So Meta-ethics will question that, do you really think keeping a lost wallet is wrong? Or are you stating a universal fact that it is universally wrong? Or are you just expressing your own personal dislike against keeping somebody else's wallet? Those are the questions. It will analyze the actual meaning behind your beliefs, your moral statements. It will keep analyzing. It will go into the depths. Okay. So the core questions that meta-ethics will ask is, do good and evil objectively exist in a universe, or did human beings invent them just to live in peace? Okay? What is moral language, they'll ask. When I say corruption is bad, am I stating a fact, or am I just saying that I dislike? I believe you have understood. We have talked about it in sufficient detail now. Then we have normative ethics. Normative ethics is the judge. It will give the norms. It will say whether something is good or bad. Descriptive ethics is the observer. It will just observe. It won't say anything. Okay? How should people act? Normative ethics is concerned with norms, standards, or criteria that define principles of ethical behavior. It is the study of what one should or should not do. It will say murder is wrong, giving charity is good, but not ethically mandatory. Can you pay attention to this sentence? Giving charity is good, but it is not ethically mandatory. If somebody does not give charity, you cannot say that person is unethical, right? Conflict of interest must be handled carefully. So it will say what is good, what is bad. That is normative ethics. It will prescribe how people ought to act and behave in a society. And if someone deviates from the prescription, from the established standards, there are provisions for punishment and justification for the same. Yes? If someone deviates, then there is provision for punishment and justification for the same. Examine standards for rightness or wrongness of actions, and it is more concerned with who ought one be, what should you be, how should you act. Examples are utilitarianism, deontology, consequentialism. We will delve into these theories in detail later on, but today just give me let me just give you an overview. What is consequentialism? Consequentialism says that a certain action is is considered to be good or bad based on the outcome, the consequences of the action, regardless of the means, regardless of what it took to achieve that. Okay? It pays attention. If the consequence is good, if the outcome is good, then the action is right according to consequence. And one of the most popular theories of consequentialism, utilitarianism is a type of consequentialism. One of the most popular theories of consequentialism is utilitarianism. Okay, utilitarianism, as we have already briefly discussed, is maximum good for maximum people. Maximum good for maximum number or maximum people, right? It is a type of consequentialism. Here again, we are paying attention on the outcome, on the consequence. We are not paying attention on the means. That means if you have to lie to save your own life or somebody else's life, that means lying is good because you're saving your life or somebody else's life. So the consequence, the outcome of saving life is paid attention to here, and your lying is justified. But deontology, sticking to duty and rules no matter what. If somebody is a strict deontologist, they will say that no, Lying is not good. Lying is immoral no matter what. Even if you are saving someone's life, still the act of lying is inherently immoral. According to deontology, certain acts are inherently good, certain acts are inherently bad, no matter what the outcome or consequences are. Fine? Clear? Then we have applied ethics. How do we take moral knowledge and put it into practice? Yes, we have learned the rules, the values, the theories and everything, but how do we apply to our day-to-day lives, to all human endeavors? That is called applied ethics. So applied dimension of ethics is known as applied ethics. That falls within a broad field of ethics. There are again applied ethics. There are hundreds of divisions or types of applied ethics, I should say. Applied ethics can be, okay, we'll go into that. Applied ethics, specific concerns in private and public life that involve moral judgment are philosophically examined from a moral perspective. In applied ethics, using conceptual tools of metaethics and normative ethics, one tries to resolve these controversial issues. For example, bioethics. When we apply to something that involves biology, called bioethics, for example, euthanasia or abortion or research on human embryos, when we have to deal with moral ethical issues of euthanasia, of abortion, of research on human embryos, of gene editing, then we call that bioethics. Okay? Then we have business ethics. It includes good corporate governance. That includes protection of whistleblowers, includes corruption and all of that. That we will call business ethics. Then we have more and more examples of applied ethics, and we will continue from here in the next class. Okay, so that's all for today's class. I hope you all have enjoyed the class. You all have understood and liked my way of teaching, and I hope to see you in the next class. And do share your thoughts below. If you have any kind of confusion, you can let me know in the comments. You can reach out to me personally as well. And that's all for today, and I'll see you in the next class. Take care and keep studying.